Formula One on 5 Live.
Good afternoon from the Hungaroring. It is round 14 of the Formula One season and the final race before we head into the summer shutdown. We're in Pest County, about 12 miles northeast of the city centre of Budapest. It's a weekend where we return to the Hungaroring as it celebrates its 40th anniversary since 1986. This track has proved challenging as 20 drivers navigate 14 turns around this narrow and twisty circuit. We've got final practice on the way in a few minutes' time. Up in the commentary box is myself, Harry Benjamin. Alongside me is racing driver Sam Bird and the BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. And we've learnt, well, a little bit so far, haven't we, Sam? After Friday, one thing's for certain, it does seem like it is very much advantage McLaren.
Absolutely, Harry. Good afternoon, everybody. McLaren look maybe not unstoppable, but they certainly look favourites to dominate the front row, don't they? Other people of note, I'd say Verstappen had a difficult day yesterday. They looked a little bit out of sorts, so they'll be looking for a decent free practice 3. The order behind McLaren, I sensed that there was promise from Leclerc, Hamilton struggling, definitely struggling with the rear of the car. And again, the standout rookie of the season, Isaac Hadjar, putting it up there. The other team that looked strong, that was a bit of a surprise, was Aston Martin.
We will get stuck into all of that. Down in pit lane for us throughout the course of the weekend is Jenny Gow. Afternoon, Jenny.
Good afternoon, Harry, and good afternoon, everyone at home. I'm just stood outside the number 81 car. For those who know, they know. For those who don't, it's Oscar Piastri's car, currently leading the championship and looking cool as a cucumber in this searing hot heat down here. He has got a fan being waved at him inside the cockpit, so no wonder that he's being a little cooler than I am. If I just go about 5 steps down, 5 paces, large paces, the car of Lando Norris, the number 4 car, is in front of me now. Lando not in it. We heard a little bit earlier on that he was going the other way, but he's now found his way into the garage. He's putting on his balaclava, headphones, and he'll be strapped into that car very soon. And as you say, it looks like McLaren have a good advantage today.
It certainly does. But Jen, the sun is beating down, but we're quite cool in the commentary box. How's it feeling out on the pit lane?
There are light fluffy clouds in the sky. It's very blue today. The weather yesterday was overcast and a bit grey. And it's hot, about 28 degrees, I think. I mean, you've got the computer in front of you, it'll say, but it's a sweaty one. That's for sure.
It certainly is. Track temperature approaching 48 degrees. Air temperature just about 26 degrees, but sometimes our screens aren't the most accurate in the world. But it's hot either way, Andrew Benson.
I wouldn't say it's hot. I would say it's lovely. I'm wandering around the paddock this morning. It's balmy. It's...
You're on holiday. You're ready for your holidays.
I wouldn't say I'm on holiday. I'm diligently hoovering up information, Harry.
Have you hoovered anything up since we last spoke to you yesterday in FP2 that you'd like to make us aware of?
Well, I had a little chat with Fernando Alonso this morning. He missed P1 yesterday because he's got a back injury. And he told me what happened was they tried a new seat in Spa, and it's given him a small tear of his lumbar area on the left-hand side of his back. You can't feel it in the car, but it's obviously pretty uncomfortable out of the car for him to miss a session. But he says it doesn't affect the way he feels the car as he's driving, so it's no problem. It's just that he could do with a bit of rest after this weekend for sure.
The week that he turned 44 years old, Fernando Alonso, and very much determined to get back in that car. But when he did, both he, Sam, and Lance Stroll both looking very good in that Aston Martin.
Yeah, absolutely. Clearly the car was working well yesterday, both on 1 lap pace and in race trim as well. So, you wouldn't put them as favourites to be 3rd and 4th for qualifying, but certainly making it through to Q3 is a strong possibility.
I mean, Andrew, when we consider where they were this time last week, occupying the back row of the Grand Prix, of the Belgian Grand Prix after qualifying. What's changed for Aston Martin?
Well, let's not get too carried away just yet, because that was only Friday practice. But what's changed is the circuit characteristics which much better fit the Aston Martin car. So it's quite draggy, the Aston Martin car. It's basically the slowest car on the straight, and Spa has 2 of the 3 sectors are basically just straights, more or less. So they were really suffering there last weekend, whereas the Hungaroring is all corners pretty much, apart from the pit straight. So it's much more to their car's liking. Also worth saying, I mean, with the caveat that Stroll was the quicker of the 2 drivers yesterday, although, as I said, Alonso did miss P1. You wouldn't expect Stroll to be quicker than Alonso ever, basically, but certainly not around this track, which is, I mean, it's hard to say that Fernando Alonso has sort of circuits where he's better at than others, but he does have a very good record here. Let's not forget that those incredible 10 laps of defence that he did against Lewis Hamilton a few years ago that basically secured the win for his teammate Esteban Ocon in that crazy race where only one car was on the grid because of the changeable conditions at the start. So he's pretty handy everywhere, Fernando Alonso, even at the age of 44, but he's especially handy around this sort of track.
Well, let's see what they can do. This, the last session before we go qualifying a little later on today. So really crucial as the green light has already come on at the end of the pit lane. Lando Norris feeds out into the fast lane. And for those who wish to do a sync up, it's 58 minutes and 41. 40, 39, 38 seconds remaining. Now, a tough day at the office yesterday for Red Bull, particularly for Max Verstappen. Jenny, you're outside the garage now.
Yes, I am. It's quite loud, you can hear, because the engine is being turned over at the back of the garage. But actually...
It's so loud, Jenny, we could barely hear you at that point.
Come on, look, I've moved away.
Well, I think we'll try and come back to you, Jen. But yeah, certainly the engine's firing up as Max Verstappen and his teammate Yuki Tsunoda will want to get as much track time as possible. Bizarre incident yesterday, Sam, for Max Verstappen. Was it a plastic paper bag? No, it was a towel that he found in his cockpit while driving around the circuit, picked it up, chucked it out of the car at the exit of turn 3. Now, he did actually have to go to the stewards for that one, but they did dismiss it. They gave him a warning. But is it often that things get left inside the cockpit of cars when you're about to head onto a track?
Do you know what? Every season we hear of a car having something left in the cockpit, it seems. It's not very often that it happens, but work goes on in and around the cockpit of F1 cars and single-seaters a lot of the time. I've had it in sports cars where I've had, spanners left in the car. I've never had it in a single-seater, but for some reason we do hear of this probably once a year, don't we, Andrew?
Yeah, and well, I think this one's actually probably on Verstappen. It was the towel that he uses to wipe his face when he's sitting in the car. So, his helmet on still, but sort of wiping the sweat from his eyes as he's sitting in the garage. And he'd obviously put it down beside him somehow in the cockpit and then kind of not handed it to a mechanic, set off, realised it was there. And of course, we can joke about it, but the reason he threw it out of the car is that you wouldn't want, obviously the first time he hit the brakes hard, it was probably going to fly down to the pedal area. And you don't want a piece of fabric tangled around your brake pedal when you're braking at 5+ G in terms of force. So he thought the safest thing to do was to go offline and chuck it out the cockpit onto the grass, which is what he did. But the stewards, being pernickety fellows, called him up, and but they normally it would be a fine for the team, but they got away with a warning because they sort of recognised that it wasn't something solid. Sometimes it's a spanner that gets left in the cockpit or something like that, and obviously that's even worse.
Yeah, he managed to get away with that one. No danger of a penalty, no danger of any penalty points for Max Verstappen. He's still on 9. Remember, he's a little less than he was a few races ago when he was so close to that one race ban. He'll lose a couple of points on the 27th of October later in the year.
I remember when Robert Kubica, when he was driving for Renault, had one of the mechanic's phones in his cockpit, and he got on the radio and said, well, I'm just going to throw it out. No.
No, I think the mechanic would have quite liked that phone back, but these things do happen. They're not too uncommon. Right, few cars making their way out onto the track. for an installation lap and then coming back in again. Looks like Lance Stroll is just out there at the moment and being followed out by his teammate Fernando Alonso. The two McLarens went out and went back in again. Let's head back down to Jenny. Still outside Red Bull, Jen?
Still outside, and hopefully you can actually hear me now. They've switched off Max Verstappen's engine. They'll probably fire it up in a minute again. They fire it up every 10 minutes until he goes out, just to keep it nice and cool, aerated, make sure it's all ticking over nicely. Max is actually talking to Dr. Helmut Marko, the Red Bull chief advisor. He was talking to his race engineer as well, who's made his way up to the pit wall. And if I just take a few steps to the right of the garage, there's all sorts of photographers and cameramen here, because so we did this in Silverstone last time. They put a marker on the ground where the front wheel off is meant to stand, just so he gets the line of sight and gets the markers absolutely correctly. And they always do a local thing to celebrate. So at Silverstone they did a Paddington Bear, whereas here they've done a circuit map of the Hungaroring, but it's Max Verstappen's 200th race with Red Bull. So they've put a V in the middle of the Hungaroring and 200 underneath it. I will take a picture just so you can see it online. But yeah, it's a nice little piece of art that Ollie, one of the technical guys, does for them. And yeah, I think it's a really nice thing that they do every week.
Yeah, very nice for Max Verstappen, and to celebrate indeed 200 Grand Prix starts for Red Bull. But yesterday, Sam, describing that car as undrivable. He was not happy at the wheel of his Red Bull.
No, not at all. It seemed like he was struggling for global grip, as if they'd literally turned down the circuit grip just for his car. Yuki Tsunoda actually had a better day, which is very, very rare on the other side of the garage. They will have made significant changes, I can imagine, to Max Verstappen's car overnight. Try something completely different. I'm expecting better things from him today. Whenever he seems to have a difficult Friday, he comes out swinging on a Saturday and then produces something every single time in qualifying. So I'm still expecting Verstappen to be a threat of some sort come this afternoon.
Yeah, he was testing out a new front wing yesterday. It was Max Verstappen as well, and trying to get that dialed in, as well as trying to find grip. But one thing we've actually seen so far, and we'll see it throughout this session and in qualifying, we saw it with some of the support categories too earlier on, is how quickly this track can ramp up. The evolution here can be quite a big deal.
It's huge, isn't it? Really, really big. The lap times yesterday, just, you know, multiple percents increase in grip, and the lap times just coming down as the session went on. What we have seen, though, is through this morning we've had an F3 race and we've had Porsche Super Cup go out there, so the track will have degraded a bit at the beginning of this session. There's also a lot of pickup offline. If you look at the outside of turn 14, for example, the last place you want to get is offline through a corner like turn 14. It'll destroy the end of a lap and destroy the start of another lap.
Well, we've seen a couple come out just to scrub some tyres and take the shine off them. Can often aid with running a heat cycle through one set of tyres. That's what Aston Martin tend to do in these sessions. They've put the medium, swapped it back on for the hard, and come back into the pit. Only one car out on the circuit at the moment, in the form of the Alpine of Franco Colapinto. He's out there on the soft tyre, and another, big weekend for the Argentine driver, who we believe is really on a sort of race-by-race contract, but struggling in that Alpine so far.
I think he's on borrowed time, from what I'm hearing up and down the paddock. Had a few little quiet chats with various people whose names I won't reveal this morning. I would count the races he's got left in Formula One on maybe one hand, maybe just a little bit more than one hand.
Okay. So because summer break is a prime opportunity to make a switch.
Might be a bit early, I think, summer break, but I think someone else will be in that car before the end of the season. I think that's the trajectory. I wouldn't say there's anything confirmed.
Do you think, what's the rumour mill saying? Are they going to use somebody within their stable? Because they've got about 400 drivers lined up as paying reserves, or will they look to someone like Valtteri Bottas?
I know what I would do. I'd do exactly that. Yeah, put Bottas in the car.
I saw actually I think it was on Bottas's Facebook or Instagram or some kind of social media, And the cameraman next to him, that's a nice car, Valtteri. What do you think?
Yeah.
Look, 2 seats available. It was very well done. I think that obviously he's hinting towards his immediate future.
Yeah, he
year.
wants to be back in Formula 1 next year, Bottas. His problem is he doesn't have any money to offer a team, but he's very keen to get a race seat back to prove what he thinks he can do. And if you're Alpine and you've got a second driver who's really not doing the job, and you've got a first driver in Pierre Gasly who, you know...
I think it's fair to say Gasly's getting the most out of that car at the moment, though.
But is he? Is he going as fast as Verstappen would in it? Not that they've got a chance to get Verstappen.
No,
Well,
there's only
he's
one
getting the most out of, right? Because you put a faster driver in, the car goes faster, right? So what's Pierre Gasly's ultimate level? They're not a top level team, so they can't expect a top level driver. But Valtteri Bottas, let's put it this way, he would be a good benchmark for Gasly, which Colapinto isn't at the moment.
Surely it makes the most sense for Bottas to come in, with his experience for one, but also Alpine are going to have a Mercedes power unit next year. Surely there is some deal to be done there. Valtteri Bottas is still a part of the management company, the Toto Wolff's management company. So surely, while Cadillac is obviously an option for Valtteri Bottas to get back on the grid, we're not expecting Cadillac to be challenging for consistent points, let's say, right now. So for Bottas now, don't you want to switch focus and try and get in with an Alpine team who are at least scoring points, and with a Mercedes engine in the back next year might well be in the hunt, certainly higher up than they are now, which is currently last.
I'm sure he wants that. The question is, what are the team going to do? But I mean, one obvious way to go about it would be, if you had any questions about Valtteri Bottas, if you were thinking about him as a potential candidate, maybe you kick Colapinto out with a few races to go before the end of the year, give Bottas a few races to show how he's getting on, have an option on him contractually, and then you can take it up if you're happy with how he performs.
Paul Aron is their reserve driver at the moment for Alpine. So too, actually, is Jack Doohan. I'm assuming there's no chances of Jack Doohan coming back?
Doesn't look like it.
No.
I think they want stability and experience at that team, because there's so much not going right at that team at the moment. They don't need question marks in the cockpit as well.
No, they need to get that stability. They'll have Steve Nielsen join the team later. I think it's September, I think he's joining that team. So trying to get a bit more stability on the management front. Paul Aron is their reserve driver. He's actually being loaned out at times this year to the Sauber team. We saw him in FP1 in Silverstone and FP1 yesterday, but didn't really get much running due to a technical issue on that Sauber. But I do know that, speaking to Alpine, they rate Aron quite highly. But again, does he have the money, and he doesn't, the experience in a Formula 1 car? Jenny, what do you make of this?
Yeah, well, I'm hearing that Mick Schumacher is also pushing incredibly hard to get a seat in that Alpine. He wants to be back on the grid. Who doesn't? Who's had any sort of F1 experience. They all want to be back in a car if they can. So he's pushing incredibly hard. We've seen him at races really all this year. So it's just if he can make the deal stick. And you're right, with Colapinto, I think they're keen to get him to America, because obviously he comes from that side of the world, and they know that the fan base will be great. They know that, you know, he's paying for that seat and quite a lot of money. So yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it, to be an F1 driver who isn't living up to expectation, always on borrowed time, always feeling that pressure.
Well, that's exactly a description you could apply to Mick Schumacher, isn't it, Jenny? So I don't think he's got much chance of getting in that car, at least not in a race seat. He had 2 years at Haas, and I don't think he impressed very many people in Formula 1 at a high level. So
I think he is still linked, though, isn't he, to the Alpine team? Because I believe he races for them in the World Endurance Championship.
Yeah,
in
I
their
don't think he's going to be in a race seat, though.
But that's why, if he has the links, he'll be pushing. But I tend to agree. But again, could it come down to just how much cash can a driver bring for Alpine, for Flavio Briatore at the helm of that team, running it in the background, in the midst of Renault CEO Luca De Meo stepping aside? I know they're about to appoint a new CEO.
They have done.
Who do we know who that is?
I do. I can't remember his name, but he was appointed earlier this week.
So it sort of highlights how they need stability on all fronts, really, for this team that has had so many top-level management leave and hemorrhage staff over the course of the last 6-7 years. It's certainly a team that needs to get back up and on the right track.
The issue with Colapinto, basically, is that I think they feel that he's had enough time now for them to have established, is he going to be a megastar or not? And the answer to that is pretty clearly, in most people's minds, no. So, okay, he's paid a lot of money for the seat, but if he's not going to be, if if you've already established to your own satisfaction that a driver's not really going to make it at the highest level, then why continue with him?
I mean, I hope you're not going to Argentina on your summer break.
Formula One is a brutal busince. I'm only reporting, Sam.
I know. No, but you're entirely true in what you say. Alpine need to get somebody in that is going to score points, or at least be close to scoring points all the time, and right now that's not the case. They languish down in 10th place in the team's championship, and it's simply not good enough for a team that every year says that they want to get back to threatening for world championships, and they're so far off that right now.
Yeah, they are currently at the bottom with 20 points to their name. They're 15 points behind Haas in ninth.
I mean, although that's a decent amount of points for last place in the championship.
I actually think that might be a record for the last place team with that many points. I think that actually might be a decent record. So the anyway's up, and Gasly drove a good race last time out in Belgium to hold on and steal the final point. But yeah, certainly as Colapinto enters the summer break, he will be on borrowed time once more. Last scored points when he was racing for Williams last year, when he took the place of Logan Sargent. Scored points in Austin with a 10th place finish, and managed to get 8th in Baku as well. And those are the sort of glimmers that I think were convincing Alpine to sign him in the end. Of course, Jack Doohan making way second time around. Right, okay, sun is still shining down in between the white clouds above us here at the Hungaroring. 43 minutes and 40 seconds remain. There hasn't been too much action out on the circuit. There are a few cars out on track. Lance Stroll has the fastest lap time, a 1:17.540 on the medium tyre. Colapinto is second, 4/10 back, having done a lap on the soft. Hulkenberg third. Gasly is fourth. Yuki Tsunoda is about to go to the top of the pile, though, in his Red Bull. Let's just see him make his way round the final corner. Turn 14, the right-hander, which runs around the outside of the pit entry. His rear wing DRS flies open and to the top for the Japanese driver by half a second on the medium tyre, a 1:17.0, as Max Verstappen, his teammate, emerges into the pit lane. Jenny.
Yes, I'm just down at McLaren. Both engines are now fired up for the papaya orange cars. They're going to send out one of them. Who knows which one first? But both are ready to go. Can't see what tyres they've got on yet, but they're waiting.
They are indeed. They have been both out once for an installation lap, so we will see who comes out first. And you have to say, Lando Norris has got all the confidence so far around this track. He finished almost 3/10 clear of Oscar Piastri in yesterday's FP2 session.
Well, what they both did actually at the beginning of this session, sorry, Benny, what they both did was, it looked like they scrubbed a set of hard compound tyres. So they went out and straight back in on the hards. Anyway, what were you going to say, Andrew?
No, I wasn't pulling a face at you, Sam.
I was going to have a go at what I said.
Face at the idea that Norris established himself definitively as the fastest McLaren driver yesterday.
I don't think that's what I said, though.
No, you didn't. I think it was a really tricky session to read yesterday, because both of them had compromised runs. Norris had a mistake at turn 2 on his first lap on his tyres, and then had to go again, so the best of his tyres would be gone by only 2 corners worth, but still. And then Piastri, his fastest lap, he encountered about 6 cars through the middle sector, and that definitely compromised him. And then he also went again, but of course you then don't know whose tyres were in best condition, because they weren't new, and Piastri had done a whole lap on his, and Norris had only done 2 corners on his. So I think we're pretty confident that McLaren is the fastest car by a country mile around this track. Which one of those two has the advantage, I wouldn't want to call just yet. I'm really interested to see, as a consequence, how this session goes. I'm just going to say one more thing about Fernando Alonso. I forgot to mention earlier that one of the things that motivated him to sit out the first session yesterday was that when he found out that what they were going to spend it doing was like comparing front wings and things like that, and he thought, I can probably miss that.
Didn't fancy that. Turns 44, not really feeling FP1 for some front wing back-to-back data testing for Fernando Alonso.
It wasn't the age, it was the back. His back is definitely painful for him, but he just thought, I need to rest my back, and that's not a good reason to do a P1. And Sam's nodding in agreement here.
Absolutely, as you get older, everything starts to hurt. One thing, well, so we're seeing Max Verstappen going green, obviously in Sector 1. This is his first meaningful pushing lap. What we did see was Yuki Tsunoda earlier going to the top of the times on the medium compound tyre. Max is now on the softs. And Yuki's car didn't look very comfortable going through turn 12. Again, the front and the rear complaining, having like this four-wheel drift slide through turn 12. Max Verstappen now through sector 2 and only 0.12 of a second faster than Lance Stroll, who's just gone to the top of the times on a 16.8, 0.2 clear of Yuki Tsunoda. It looks like this will be top of the times for Verstappen. He comes across the line and yes, goes just under 0.3 of a second faster than the Aston Martin driver, but he's on the soft tyre compared to Stroll, who's on the medium.
Yeah, it's Verstappen, Stroll, Tsunoda third, then comes Gasly, who's popped his Alpine up into fourth, a couple of tenths ahead of teammate Colapinto. Hulkenberg, the last time on the board at the moment, in sixth, but Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri are now both out onto the circuit. We're just getting a look at what happened to Max Verstappen on that lap. Running wide, coming out through turn 11. So easily done there. Kicks up a little bit of dust off the track, but kept two wheels on the right side of the white line. So
I don't see why we need a replay of that, because every single car has been doing exactly the same as the session goes on. With the Porsche Super Cup going out just before, they bring on a load of dust onto the track because they're using the track, the curb, the grass, and everything else that they can find, because obviously they're a tin top car. I really don't know why we need to see a replay of that.
I mean, all I would say is I'll take as many replays of turn 11 as I can, because it's a great corner.
It is. It's an awesome corner, isn't it? In fact, that is where, how many years ago was it? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, on the reconnaissance lap to the grid, Max Verstappen actually binned it there, didn't he? And then Red Bull did the most miraculous turnaround, got that car back out to the Grand Prix, and he scored decent points.
Yeah.
That was an epic race for Max Verstappen and his mechanics. It was a race to get the car ready for lights out in time. A drama before the Grand Prix had even started. I wonder if the race director, the TV director, was just showing that replay because there wasn't actually that much action happening elsewhere. However, it is now starting to get a little busier, and I am going to be really intrigued to see how Ferrari perform in this session, because while McLaren looked like they are ahead of the pack, Charles Leclerc looked quick yesterday, and I wonder if he is in the running to be best of the rest and to be fighting for that final podium position as he goes to the top of the times on a soft tyre.
He definitely is, Harry. He was P3 in both sessions yesterday and looking very comfortable, a lot more comfortable than Lewis Hamilton was, which is not a surprise in the context of how they've been performing relatively this season, but it is a surprise in a way because Hamilton is normally so good around the Hungaroring. Let's see if he can close that gap a bit. But at the moment, after their first laps, Hamilton's still best part of 0.4 slower than his teammate.
But Andrew, as we spoke about yesterday, it's a driving style thing with Lewis, isn't it? He's one of the best ever, but this era of car just doesn't quite suit him like the previous probably 2 eras did. With this era of car, it seems like you need to come off the brake quite abruptly and roll the speed into the corner, use the ground effect that the car is giving you, whereas he still likes to trail brake.
Yeah, he's braking he likes to brake late, and that brings the rear of the car up, and that loses downforce through the diffuser. What I can't get my head around is, for a person who's so famed for his adaptability in the cockpit, how he hasn't managed to change his driving style for 4 years, but or as much as you would expect him to do to have the effect that you would expect it to have. We're talking relative, of course, but I don't think you'd have expected the Lewis Hamilton. People just wouldn't have expected this to have happened in this era from a driver of that caliber. It's just, I think, surprised everybody in Formula One, including Hamilton himself.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually just seen both McLarens go out on a set of softs and do their first attempt at a push lap. Oscar Piastri now leads the field on a 16.2. Lando Norris, I think he's not made the most of that lap. He's down in 5th place, 4.5 tenths off the pace, so I can imagine he'll want to go again, because that probably isn't the most ideal preparation going into qualifying.
No, it wasn't, but Piastri to the top by just over 0.5 tenth of a second. Russell second, Leclerc third, Verstappen, Norris the top 5. Then it's Hamilton, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Tsunoda and Antonelli are the top 10. Ahead of Gasly is in 11th. Then comes Bortoleto and Alonso. Colapinto and Hadjar is in 15th. Liam Lawson down in 16th. Then come the 2 Haas cars of Ollie Behrman and Esteban Ocon, with Carlos Sainz down in 19th, and Alex Albon on his first proper run in the Williams. He's on the medium tyre and he's winging his way through the twisty middle sector, the sweeping left, then right again, out through turn 11, where we saw Max Verstappen run a little bit wide earlier on and kicking up some of the dust off line. It is the normal line there as Albon does something rather similar to. Then that leads you downhill to the right-hander of 12, and then you're sweeping your way through the left-hand corner of turn 13. One more to go for Alex Albon. Let's just see where this places the Williams driver as he opens the DRS, and he pops that Williams only up to 17th fastest. Jenny.
Yes, I'm down here at Alpine, just looking over Franco Colapinto's car. Actually, Gasly's P11 and Colapinto's P14, which isn't too bad for him. But the car isn't handling well. They're not liking it. They're doing a lot of setup changes, torsion bar changes, suspension changes. Not happy.
Okay, thank you for that, Jenny. Max Verstappen back out on the circuit on that soft tyre, fastest of anybody through the middle sector. He's got one more corner to go, has the Dutchman who took his first career pole here back in 2019. He has not taken pole here since, but he goes to the top in this final practice session before qualifying with 33 minutes and 57 seconds left on the clock, and it's a 1:16.202 and it's 0.038 of a second between himself and Piastri.
But he's definitely found something today. There's definitely more of a spring in his step when it comes to the driving. We're not hearing him complain of no grip, front axle, rear axle. It does look more comfortable for him, and he's extracting far more performance out of that Red Bull car on FP3.
Lewis Hamilton is the sound you're hearing at the moment as he gears up for a flying lap, gets a nice bit of tow from, I think it was one of the Haas cars in front of him, into the braking zone just before the 50-metre braking board, the right-hander of turn 1, and it's not the nicest of corners for Lewis Hamilton, and I think he's bailed out of it already with traffic ahead of him as he now plunges downhill into the left-hander of 2.
He just braked too late, Harry.
Yeah.
Carried too much speed in, missed the apex completely, and that was the end of that lap.
And that's something you absolutely cannot afford to do in qualifying, because we've talked about it already with the track evolution, but also the traffic management as well, that you have to be so wary of in Q1 with 20 cars out on the track. Even track limits can be a factor here as well, and that is something that caught out Lewis Hamilton at Spa last week and ended up seeing him out in Q1.
Absolutely, sorry, we're just seeing Charles Leclerc 2.5 tenths clear in Sector 1. He's just done a mighty Sector 1 over Max Verstappen. So Charles Leclerc really hooked up and dialed in around this track. Traffic is going to be an issue, as you've just said. Now, people look like they're going to be doing a push sequence on the soft tyre, especially in Q1. The problem is, if you make a mistake on that first lap...
Ooh, which Charles Leclerc has just had a little off. He's would have lost a bit of time for that. It was coming out of the exit of turn 12, where there is a strip of gravel just offline, or just off the track. If you dip a wheel in, you're suddenly losing lap time, and that would have cost Leclerc. He managed to keep it going, and he is down on time in that final sector. So more to come from Charles Leclerc. He was fastest of anybody in the first and second sector, but just that little mistake, which we'll get another look at shortly, just catching the Ferrari driver out as he had to correct and catch the car. And on cue, I think we're about to see it, Sam, as he comes downhill. It's a 90-degree right-hander of turn 12, turns it in, and there's the gravel.
He braked late, got too much understeer on the way in, was then far too tight on the exit, and just... that would have really compromised his exit quite heavily. What I was saying, though, Harry, about the sequence of laps, I was saying that ultimately I think most people will be trying to do a push-push sequence in Q1. If you go off sequence, Ocon radio.
So no dancing.
Yeah, what was he doing, really?
Not sure.
I thought I blocked him. I didn't. It's a joke.
Ocon not happy.
That gives you an idea of the traffic management issue that will come for qualifying.
Exactly. But if you do go off sequence with other people, the chances are is that you will get traffic on your next lap. So you've made a mistake, you go off sequence, next lap you are very much under threat from catching people at the wrong places at the wrong time, as we see Ollie Behrman having quite a big snap from the rear of the car under braking. going into turn one. That looked like mid to end of braking, where the brake bias is starting to shift towards the rear of the car. Hot medium compound tyres and a big shift of brake bias. Didn't look like the rear of the car was too happy there.
Yeah, Ollie Behrman not having that much fun out there at the moment. Down in last place as his teammate Esteban Ocon pops his Haas up into 17th position. Haas, who managed to get both cars in the points in the sprint race last time out, couldn't do it in the Grand Prix. We're about to get another look at what happened to Ollie Behrman coming down into turn one, hits the brakes and has to snap on the rear and has to correct.
I had the rear locking.
Rear locking for Ollie Behrman then.
Yeah, it's either the brake bias or he was going down the box very, very quickly. And if you don't have seamless shifting, it can be very, very tricky.
Well, for Behrman then, he'll want to get a cleaner lap in than that. Piastri fastest at the top of the times, but we didn't quite see Charles Leclerc hook his entire lap up. Lost a lot of time in that final sector, ended up 2.5 tenths back from the McLaren driver. Verstappen's third, then it's Norris. Bortoletto's actually rocketed up to 5th in the Sauber, ahead of Russell and Antonelli. George Russell's 6th, Kimi Antonelli is 7th. Now, Andrew, where are Mercedes at the moment? Because they seem a bit lost. We heard there was some sort of crisis meeting back at Brackley this week. They've gone back to an old suspension. Are they lost once more?
Well, they certainly found themselves in a place they didn't want to be. They put some upgrades on the car, including a new rear suspension a few races ago, which was intended to be have improved anti-lift at the rear. So it's really important with these ground effect cars to keep the aerodynamic platform as stable as possible, so those underbody tunnels work effectively. That's what the anti-lift at the rear and the anti-dive at the front is all about. That's why it's become so important. But they feel, Mercedes, that it probably induced some other characteristics in the car, that were making it unstable on corner entry for the drivers. And that sort of married also with Kimi Antonelli really starting to struggle in comparison with George Russell. They've gone back to the older suspension just to try and eliminate that and see whether that was what was inducing these other issues in the car. And Antonelli's been a lot closer to Russell this weekend so far. He's a couple of tenths off in this session so far, but yesterday there wasn't that much to choose between them. So I would say it's a relatively promising start, even though you never really want to go back on upgrades. Although it has to be said that going back on upgrades is a bit of a sort of theme of these regulations for many teams. It hasn't happened. The only team it hasn't really happened to since the middle of 23 is McLaren, and that speaks. It's one of the many ways that you can see the excellence of the quality of the work that McLaren are doing on the design front, is that they're very good at not introducing upgrades until they're absolutely sure that it's going to be an upgrade. And that says a lot for their understanding, the way their tools help them predict where they will gain and where they won't. And that's all about, because the aerodynamics are so sensitive under the floors of these cars, it's all about being absolutely sure that the airflows, which are very, very complicated with all the turning vanes and things that they have, or all the vanes and straights and things under the floor, you need to know exactly where the airflow vortices are going and how they're joining up with each other. And McLaren have been very good at making sure that they fully understand that before they put things on the car, whereas other teams haven't been quite so effective at that.
Yeah, Gasly is, sound you're hearing, on track at the moment in that Alpine. He's down in 13th with the Alpine, as we have been discussing, getting a Mercedes power unit for this new regulation cycle, hoping that will benefit them in the years to come. Gasly improving on his own time, but still some way off the front runners as Colapinto, his teammate, makes his way up into 13th. The two Saubers have snuck up inside the top 10 with the soft tyre. Bortoletto up in 6th position, 3 tenths adrift. Hulkenberg 9 tenths adrift, actually just been biffed out of the top 10, down in 11th as Gasly got himself up into 9th. But for a Sauber team, certainly look like they're experiencing, from where they were last year, Sam. I mean, what a turnaround so far for the team. Of course, that breakthrough podium for Nico Hulkenberg, but even so, consistent points score from Hulkenberg. And now it seems like Gabriel Bortoletto in his rookie season feels like he's now got more confidence in this car, delivering good qualifyings, and took his second Grand Prix points finish last time out.
Yeah, the season's gone a lot better than what I expected from that team, that's for sure. Remember, this is a team that last year, I mean, they couldn't even do a pit stop without having an issue. It was embarrassing for them, and you felt for them going through last year, but they've worked away. It's I suppose a bit of a transitioning year, obviously going to a big name next year in Audi. The team will become Audi, which is why Nico Hülkenberg has moved there, because I think he saw that would be quite an interesting project. But yeah, much better results recently. Hulkenberg's been very solid. I've always said that I think he's a top driver. Just his weight and size has let him down. I'm not saying that he's fat. He's not fat. He's just a lot bigger than...
that BMI chat again, are we?
Well, no, his BMI is far more impressive than yours, Harry, that's for sure.
What about yours, Sam?
What about mine?
Yeah.
Well, my BMI...
Is it more impressive than yours, do you think?
Yeah, I reckon so.
BMI,
I reckon, yeah. But my problem is that I'm small and stocky.
Okay.
Muscular and stocky.
But that
he's
shouldn't
tall.
affect your ability to change your BMI, right?
I would have to lose muscle mass for my BMI to come down.
Aren't you in a cut at the moment? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, apart from the bacon sandwich that I had for breakfast, yeah. As we see Alex Albon get back to the racing, shall we?
What's a cut?
Where I don't eat very much.
He's trying to slim down.
Trying to lose a few kilos. So, turn 4, Alex Albon had a little bit of a slide. And
so what was the bacon sandwich about then?
Well, I looked at it, and then all of a sudden it was in my face.
Well, hang on, you had the bacon sandwich this morning, and didn't you have 8 chicken tacos last night as well for our Mexican dinner?
It was all about the protein, Harry.
Can I just say, you had 8 chicken tacos. I deliberately gave one to Paddy.
What, so you could say this?
So
no,
I could say,
only had an extra 4 because you were like, we've absolutely demolished the first 4. Harry, we're getting another 2 in. I just went with you.
They were one bite things.
They were one bite, and they were delicious. Not so delicious for Alex Albon coming through turn 4 with that big wobble.
Big weight, kind of so much lateral load onto that rear right, and it's had an oversteer. He's caught it, and then it's sent the car the other way.
But he lives to fight another day on that one. It's funny, we're used to seeing that quite a lot, but I think that's really the first time at least we spotted it on the cameras this weekend, that a car has really pushed it coming through turn 4. Albon is currently down in 15th. His teammate Carlos Sainz is down in 17th. Fernando Alonso currently out on a lap at the moment in the Aston Martin. There's 22 minutes and 34 seconds remaining. Sam Bird, you raised your hand.
Yeah, no, Lewis Hamilton has actually done a very decent lap going into the final 20 minutes of the session. He can produce a scintillating lap time still. He can still put it up there, but it's more difficult for him, this brake release issue. It's less consistent than Charles Leclerc, but it's nice to see him doing a decent job. We're now following Fernando Alonso through Sector 2. This is a car that was performing well yesterday. What's his second sector time? He's 3.5 tenths off on the medium compound tyre, so decent from Fernando Alonso. Coming into the second last corner, turn 13, nicely through there. Where's this going to finish up at the end of the lap? He's currently down in 18th, and across the line to put him P9, the fastest runner so far on a set of mediums.
Good lap from Fernando Alonso in that Aston Martin. You mentioned the Ferraris a moment ago. Lewis Hamilton's popped himself up into second. Charles Leclerc is down in 4th. But Hamilton has come back into the pit lane, which is where we can find Jenny.
Yes, I'm just having a look at him. They haven't got the barriers out, obviously, because it's a live session, so you can really get up close and personal with Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. They've taken the number 44 plate off, so someone's got a little ratchet and spanner, and they're just doing some tweaking to probably suspension or brakes, I'm guessing. So Lewis is happy at the moment. He's 0.14 off the fastest time Piastri's, but he still wants more out of this Ferrari. He still wants to set a faster time still. And this is one of the last moments that they can go out, change something, and then go on track before qualifying. So these are vital moments. If you're not perfectly happy with the setup, which driver is ever perfectly happy, I'd say, then this is the time that you want to just come in, put some work in and get back out and test what you're changing?
Man, I don't know what's wrong with the traffic, but it's too bad. Like, Norris doesn't know how to let by someone.
That's Isaac Hadjar in the Racing Bulls talking about the traffic. I mean, we were just watching a replay, Sam. It really was traffic paradise as they all try and find their way through or get out of the way coming into that really difficult middle sector as they come out through the slow chicane and into the sweepers.
Yeah, I don't know what he was complaining about Lando for there, because Lando was behind him. I think something might have happened previously before that. I don't think it was necessarily that bit, but certainly the middle of Sector 2 can get very, very busy, and we can expect to see more of that in Q1 and potentially even Q2 this afternoon.
So what would you do in Q1? Would you go out?
Me personally?
Would you
just
go out straight away?
Out pole and back in.
Well, yeah, exactly. But you're not going to get pole if you're stuck behind Isaac Hadjar
this year, is it?
That's a low blow. It's a low blow, Andrew. Come on.
Right, I'm not talking to you for the rest of the day. That is shocking.
That's our co-commentator Sam Bird there. Thank you very much. Right, Andrew, was our co-commentator.
He's crossed his arms.
He's not happy. He's had to bring in a jumper today because he's not happy with the air conditioning temperature setting in the commentary box.
Is it attack Sam Bird Day or something? Like I'm being attacked for...
Tease, Sam. Tease is
shocking.
The word.
He's had a bacon sandwich this morning, which he's fuming at himself about as well. So
I'm running... me and Jock Clear might be running back to the hotel.
Are you actually? Well, that'll give us more room in the car at least.
Yeah, that'll lower the BMI.
From the track.
Yeah, we're going to run. We did it actually.
Was it a half marathon?
Myself.
20Ks, I think, isn't it?
It's 22, 23K. Yeah, so it's half marathon. Myself, Jockey, and Loic, who's now at Ferrari as well, he used to be at Mercedes, all did it together, I think in 2012 or 2013. Loic.
It's Loic Serra, the Ferrari technical director.
He got the worst cramp known to mankind halfway. So we had to stop for about half an hour so that he could then get a taxi. He was in agony. So then myself and Jock finished the run. And fair play, Jock ran the whole way. It was difficult to get going again. Once you've stopped for that period of time, it's quite easy to cramp up. Yeah.
Have you persuaded him off? Because you had a chat with him on Thursday. We witnessed that chat.
Yep, and then I saw him again yesterday, and he actually went for a 12 or 13 kilometre walk just to see how his legs felt on the Thursday night. He said he felt good, so he said that he would let me know later today if he felt like doing it again. So let's see if Jock Clear does come for a run with me this evening.
I'm sure Andrew will come with you. You could do a bit of work as well, Andrew. Get a few scoops on the way.
Running is not my chosen form of exercise. I'm a cyclist or a swimmer. I just wanted to say, what I was going to say was that that Alonso lap was on 7-lap old mediums. So, I mean, it's still P3, and we don't know how much fuel he had on board, and we don't know how much fuel the soft-tired runners in front of him had on board, but on the face of it, that looks like quite a handy lap from Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin.
They're more competitive than I thought they were going to be coming into this weekend. I know that they've got quite a draggy car, but I didn't expect them to be quite so competitive around here.
No, the signs are looking positive for Fernando Alonso in that Aston Martin. He's currently 9th. Talking about positive signs, the man who is currently fastest, Oscar Piastri, is back out there embarking on another lap on the soft tyre. 1:15.87.1 keeps him just about a 10th clear at the moment at the top of the times. And outside McLaren for us, down in pit lane, is Jenny Gao.
Yeah, so Piastri's on track. Lando Norris has just gone onto the track, both with a set of soft tyres. Pit loss expected is 21 seconds. That's up a little bit. This is the new pit lane. It's worth noting that. And a lot of the teams are paying special attention because they want to make the most out of these pit stops. There might only be one tomorrow, so all important.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the strategy ends up being for the Grand Prix tomorrow, as Piastri absolutely flying and pushing that McLaren to the absolute extreme of the track, coming through the fast right-hander of 11. He's now in the left-hander of 13. One more corner to go.
I mean, this could be into the 14s. We could see a lap into the 14s. What's it going to be across the line? This has been a huge lap from Piastri. This lays down a marker, and it's a 14 0.9 from Piastri. I mean, that blows everybody else out the water at this point. Obviously, there's other sets of soft tyres to go on to other cars, and there is the fact that the track is going to get better and better. But even so, that lays a heck of a marker. How can Lando Norris respond with his lap on soft tyres, which is coming up and going to start any minute now?
Yeah, he's just coming around the penultimate corner, Lando Norris. I was going to say Piastri's looked really good this morning so far. He was quicker on the medium runs than Norris by a couple of tenths. So let's see, Harry, take us around this lap. Let's see if Norris can get close to matching or even beating Piastri's time.
Here we go then with Lando Norris down towards turn 1. The DRS flap slam shuts under braking through the right-hander of turn 1. Out on the exit, runs downhill now towards the left-hander. Medium speed, left-right sweeping corner. Critical here to carry as much momentum as you can as he feeds that through the right-hand flick of turn 3. Then it's a short straight uphill over a blind crest through the quick left-hander of turn 4. Then you're immediately greeted through a right-hander of turn 5. Gravel to his left, steers clear of it, and now into the slow technical chicane. Traction and precision at an all-time high, and then through the sweepers. Medium speed corners for Lando Norris. Left, left, then right again. Out through turn 11. Kicks up a bit of dust offline, downhill. Critical braking point coming up through the right-hander. 90 degrees of turn 12. The gravel strip awaits you. He keeps clear of it once more. Turn 13, the arcing left-hander as the sun beats down off of the orange McLaren, and Lando Norris's fluorescent helmet shines brightly out of the final corner for Norris. It's not as quick as Oscar Piastri, but a strong final sector from the Brit puts him less than half a tenth of a second away.
Sam, I just want to ask you, those two laps were quite different in character. Piastri's was all drama, and Norris's was quite smooth and calm. What was going on there?
I think Lando gave up lap time at turn 1 and turn 2 early on in the lap. I thought he was going to be a couple of tenths off after the first sector. It transpired it was only 1 tenth. He had a little bit too much. It looked like he turned in early and got a little bit of understeer at turn 2, whereas Oscar Piastri takes a later turn in and carries more minimum through the corner. Lando takes a tighter line and then looks like he's a little bit later on power out of the corner. I thought that, Lando's final sector was sublime, but Oscar looked like he maximised sector 2 massively, didn't it? It did look flamboyant and well driven. I think that even though it's so close, I still think Lando's got something left in the pocket. He'll go back, look at the data, and there'll be things that he can work on to try and extract more lap time. But that's a heck of a statement from the McLaren boys to be that far ahead at this stage.
Just to put some context onto it, Verstappen, I don't know whether this was... Oh, here's some radio.
Efficiency a lot different.
Yeah, we're looking into it. Cookie's looking into it.
Of course, it's +2 now.
2. Going past.
It's all +2 now from the long run.
Okay, yeah, reset, bias, offset. Reset, bias, offset.
Can we check, please, this before session start, honestly? Just wake up.
I didn't quite catch what Yuki Tsunoda was quite so upset about there, Sam, did you?
So I think he's on about the fact that during a race run, he uses a different bias and a bias offset to when he's doing, let's say, a quali run.
Yeah.
So he might run a more forwards bias for qualifying and slightly more rearwards bias, for example, for the race running, and maybe they hadn't got that in there in the settings. So we now see a yellow flag out on track. I'm not entirely sure why that is. We're seeing a replay of Yuki Tsunoda. I'm imagining that this will be a front lock-up going into turn 1, and no, it's not a front lock, it's just lack of retardation, what looks like going down into the braking zone. Effectively, that means that he's just not got the stopping potential going down to turn 1. That looked very undramatic and just looked like he ran wide.
So Max Verstappen's been out on the soft tyres again, new tyres I think, and but he's only down in 11th place, 1.2 seconds off the McLarens at the moment. I was watching George Russell fighting the Mercedes dramatically coming out of the penultimate corner. He's down in 8th, whereas, whoa, that's what the yellow flag's for, Sam.
It was for Isaac Hadjar, who got all out of shape and found himself spinning off the track coming into the final corner. This is the sound on board with the French rookie coming through the left-hander of turn 13. Squeezes the throttle but gets onto the curb on the exit and just completely loses stability on the rear, and round he goes.
I don't think I've ever seen that spin at this track before, actually.
Well, not in these conditions. We've seen Max Verstappen actually have a spin out of turn 13 but in the damp, but certainly not that far around the exit.
You try to fix the rear and then collapse in front of the steer.
Max Verstappen continues not to be all at ease with his Red Bull at the moment. After a bit of a flurry of lap times in the last few moments, Oscar Piastri is still the fastest lap time, a 1:14.916. Lando Norris, a 1:14.948. Then it's Charles Leclerc, Hamilton, Antonelli up into 5th, ahead of Alonso. Then it's Stroll, Russell. The two Saubers with Bortoletto and Hulkenberg make up the top 10. Bem's 11th, Verstappen down in 12th, ahead of Sainz and Albon, with Pierre Gasly in 15th. Yuki Tsunoda is 16th, ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Liam Lawson with Colapinto and Ocon bringing up the rear of the field.
So Alonso up in 6th place with Stroll in 7th. I expect George Russell to be ahead of them, actually. He had quite a nasty exit out of turn 13 on his set of soft tyres. So going into quali, I think it is 2 by 2. You've got the 2 McLarens followed by the 2 Ferraris, the 2 Mercedes and then the 2 Aston Martins as your top 8.
Where are Red Bull going to be?
I'm just thinking, is this Red Bull, are they in trouble here? Big time.
I think that they could be. I think Verstappen will probably squeeze into Q3, but it is really looking like it's going to be a squeeze into Q3 for Max Verstappen and the Red Bull.
Wow. Max Verstappen currently 1.2 off. Had a little mistake on his lap, but down in 12th with 8 minutes and 21, 20, 19, 18 seconds remaining. The grandstands are absolutely filled to the brim here at this Hungarian track, northeast of the city centre of Budapest, as we celebrate the 40th anniversary year of this circuit. Some upgrades for us, at least in terms of the facilities. No change to the tracks, to the actual track layout and the running of it. Right now, it is looking pretty for Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris and McLaren, leading the way right now in this final practice session ahead of qualifying a little later on this afternoon. Now, the sun is out and a nice time for a little stroll, I hear, for Jenny Gow.
I've had a wander. This is very unlike me, but this is one of the circuits where you can actually get out the back and look at the final 2 corners. And I love coming here and I love seeing the cars actually in action, because when you're in the pit lane, surprisingly, you don't get to see them run very fast. So I've just watched Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris come round here in the papaya orange cars. They look so slick. And actually, the Racing Bulls came round one after the other. There was only a couple of metres separating them both as an Alpine comes around the corner and goes up the hill. It is quite hilly here before they slam on the brakes at 50 metres and go round that final corner. It's just a thing of beauty to watch. I'm so excited right now.
It's a great track, I think, for the fan as well. We're situated in a bit of a natural valley. 80% of this track is visible from pretty much every single grandstand. And it's always quite a popular Grand Prix to come to, as Lando Norris is out there at the moment on the soft tyre, down on time, coming through the middle sector. Didn't look particularly comfortable coming through the left-hander of turn 2, Sam. Did you notice that in the early part of the lap?
Well, for me, it looks like quite an early turn-in for Lando going into turn 2. I feel like these tyres are a little bit second-hand now. The McLaren's really extracting the maximum from them when they're fresh, when they're new on that opening lap. And as you can imagine, on the second time of asking, you just don't quite have the same amount of purchase into the tarmac as he would have done on the opening lap. That lap finishing 4.5 tenths off the pace from where Piastri has done a 14.9. But I think it's been a very encouraging session, as pretty well the whole year's been encouraging, hasn't it, from McLaren. They're far and away the the fastest car around this circuit. 4/10 clear of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, the Ferraris in third and fourth. Sauber have had a great session. Aston Martin had a good session. Mercedes encouraging, but yeah, Red Bull look a little bit all at sea.
Yeah, Bortoleto in the Sauber is coming around the final corner now. He's currently up in 9th spot. Found a bit of time actually in that final sector, but the first two weren't anything to write home about. Has appeared now in Q3 twice so far. Finished 4th here in Formula 2 last year. Has had podiums during his time in Formula 3 at this track. And of course absolutely rocks it up through the feeder categories at Gabriel Bortoleto. F3 champion in his rookie year, F2 champion in his rookie year, managed by Fernando Alonso's management stable. Gets on really well too with Max Verstappen, does Bortoleto, the 20-year-old from Sao Paulo. Starting to show, actually, I think we could be seeing Bortoleto in the paddock for a fair while longer. He has got a contract going into next year as the team transitions to Audi, and it's over one lap, where you're going up somebody of Nico Hülkenberg's experience. It's over a one lap qualifying where really Gabriel Bortoleto stands out against Nico Hülkenberg, having out-qualified in the majority of races this year. For Hülkenberg, who's been so good over one lap, he's having to put in the hard yards during the race, is the German, to try and make up for those positions. But right now he's less than a tenth behind his teammate. Let's see if Sauber can transfer that form going into qualifying later on, which will be on Sports Extra 2. We'll get the green light on for Q1 at 3 o'clock on Sports Extra 2 for that one, and find out who will be on pole position for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Such a crucial position to be in. None of the last 12 races here have been won from outside the top 10. 4 of them have been won from pole position, although the pole sitter has actually not won any of the last 4 races here. So it's not the be-all end-all, but it certainly helps you out.
It does indeed, and it's somewhere where quite a few drivers and famous names have actually won their maiden Grand Prix. We've got Damon Hill, we've got Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button, Heikki Kovalainen, Esteban Ocon, and obviously last year Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, last year Oscar Piastri was a 2-stop for the McLaren drivers. Norris got the undercut on Piastri, and then we had the whole team radio fallout a year ago today. In the end, Norris playing the team game and giving the position and the lead of the race back to Oscar Piastri, who went on to take his first Grand Prix victory. Yuki Tsunoda last year with the Racing Bulls made the one-stop strategy work, started on the medium, went to the hard, and managed to gain 1 position from 10th up to 9th. So it worked out for Tsunoda. I wonder if anybody else might be looking at that. Of course, safety car probability here, around about 25%. So all these factors can suddenly throw the strategy out of the window, but that will be what those on the pit wall are preparing for. And if you're Ferrari, you've got about 17 different options ready to roll out at their beck and call. But less than 2 minutes remaining. The 2 McLarens have now come into the pits, cementing their times at the top of the leaderboard. Charles Leclerc once again best of the rest, but Lewis Hamilton up there as well, but a few tenths adrift of his teammate. Kimi Antonelli is 5th. Then comes Alonso and Stroll. So both Aston Martins looking strong. Stroll close to his teammate Russell, Bortoleto and Hülkenberg the top 10. Ollie Behrman is in his favourite spot in P11, and it's Max Verstappen down in 12th. He's on an outlap at the moment. Let's see if Max Verstappen is going to try and have one last crack at it. I think he is. Stuck the soft tyre on. So we'll see if Verstappen can end this session with a bit more positivity. Lawson behind him, Sainz, Colapinto 15th. Then it's Albon, Ocon with Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, who is also out there on a soft lap, on a soft tyre for a lap. We'll see if he can get himself up the order from 19th, and Isaac Hadjar as well down in 20th position. Leclerc out there, though, currently coming towards the right-hander of turn 12, down on time compared to Piastri in the first and the middle sectors.
Well, both Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar made fundamental errors on their soft tyre run, as Charles Leclerc nearly tries to do an Isaac Hadjar coming out of turn 13, got very squirrely on the loud pedal and stays third, 1.1 seconds off the pace on that lap. The soft tyres look like in these conditions are only going to be lasting for one lap. But yeah, Isaac Hadjar had a spin out of turn 13, a very strange spin out of turn 13 on the set of softs, and Yuki Tsunoda went to a different postcode at turn 1 under braking, trying to get to the apex. I'm not sure which city he was going to, but definitely wasn't in Budapest.
He was off to Bucharest.
Yeah, something like that. Another difficult session for Yuki Tsunoda, and a little bit uncharacteristic for Isaac Hadjar to have a poor session. He's been a bit of a revelation this year. Certainly not what Red Bull need. They're way off the pace currently.
This is the sound of Charles Leclerc with his little mistake. We've seen this now actually crop up from a few drivers coming out of the final corner. Not as dramatic when we ride on board with Charles Leclerc, but coming through the left-hander of 13, there is that red and white rumble strip of curb, and it just upsets the balance of the car on the rear.
Yeah, what happened there, Harry, was he's had a little bit of a moment mid-corner, which has then just positioned the car half a metre wider than where he wanted for the exit. Meant he got on that kind of astroturfy, more slippery area of the exit, and you just saw his hands just move a bit. It looks far more vicious and ferocious from the outside than what it is on the inside.
And everybody peeling out of the pit lane just before the checker flag came out so they can get their practice starts in. And that is the checkered flag at the end of the final practice session before we go qualifying ahead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri fastest, Lando Norris just behind him in second, McLaren looking good and ahead of the game. Charles Leclerc continues to be best of the rest, with Lewis Hamilton gaining slightly in this FP3 session. Kimi Antonelli, the top 5.
What a session.
And not in a good way for Yuki Tsunoda, down in 19th position. His teammate Verstappen in 12th. If Verstappen is having a bad day, I couldn't hazard a guess that Yuki Tsunoda will be having an even worse day. Alonso and Stroll, though, not having too shabby a time out there. 6th and 7th for the Aston Martin duo. George Russell, maybe a little bit more to come from the Brit in 8th. Then it's Gabriel Bortoleto in 9th. And Nico Hülkenberg in 10th. A good start to Saturday for the Sauber drivers. Ollie Behrman in 11th. Then comes Verstappen. Franco Colapinto 13th. And actually ahead of his teammate Pierre Gasly. Lawson and Sainz are 14th and 15th. Then comes Albon. Esteban Ocon is 17th. Then comes Gasly. Tsunoda in 19th, with Isaac Hadjar with a spin towards the end of that session, rather ruining his momentum, down in 20th and last. Though I think we can expect a little bit more from him come qualifying. Right, that just about does us here. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live. Now on Sports Extra 2, we're going to head to Singapore for the World Aquatics Championships, and we'll be back a little later on for qualifying.